Good morning and welcome to the Raben Report. I'm your host, Elliot Raben, so get ready to get triggered. Good morning and welcome to the Raben Report. I'm your host as usual, and as you might have heard in our intro, and with me, also as usual, I have my expert panel, Marshall, Daniel, and Adam. How are you guys?
Good.
Doing
I'm
very
doing
well.
good, yeah.
Awesome. I had barely any sleep. Sorry, I barely know anybody's names. I barely know my own. But, we can hear you. It's good. Okay, so let's start with our 5-minute recap of the week. We're going to start with Kevin O'Leary at Ryerson.
Yay.
So Marshall is part of the Ryerson Campus Conservatives. So he was part
Whoa,
of the...
bro,
Don't say that. It's a secret.
Actually, Marshall's part of the neo-Nazi Trump supporters.
Well, yeah, you'd think from the
fascist
response that we get sometimes.
Yeah. So you're part of it. You were part of the organizing committee, obviously, putting the event together, and I attended. It was great seeing you in a suit all dapper like that.
Thank you.
Looking great, my man. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how the event went?
Well, setting it up was way too much stress way more stress than there should have been. Overall, the event went very well, I'd say. O'Leary was a bit late, but that's expected of any politician, unfortunately. He came and gave a great speech. I think he really got a bunch of people on his side more so. Like, he's not very well received within the, registered members of the party. However, that put him into my top 4, I'd say. When I look at his policy, what's written down it's tough because there's so little. I really hope to see more soon. When he speaks, he makes so much more sense than a lot of the other candidates. And although Ryerson
I got
gave
that
us,
vibe. I understood what he was saying.
Yeah, for sure. And Ryerson gave us a bit of trouble when we were setting it up, unfortunately. But we did it. It happened, and it went very well.
And how was the attendance? Tell us about that.
We filled the room to capacity.
It was in the Chang School, right?
Yeah, Kevin O'Leary's team actually wanted us to fill it above capacity and break fire code, but we didn't do that. I mean, we would have squeezed in a few extra people, but
No, there's a limit. There's a buffer zone sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. There's a limit. But, it went huge turnout, and it was great.
Yeah, I personally enjoyed the event a lot, and there were a bunch of my friends there, so I kind of, I don't know, was it his wife, the blonde one?
No.
Okay.
She's just a campaign
So
organizer.
this blonde lady that was throwing, or was there, she was throwing like pins, like buttons to put on, and I looked to my friend, I'm like, how many people would disown me if I put this on?
With the O'Leary one?
Yeah, the O'Leary one. But it was a fun event. He's, at least I think, much nicer than most people would think.
Yeah, for sure.
I have a completely different opinion of him now, but, then again, obviously you can't go off of one meeting, right? Because he has a past, of course. But, how long did he stay for pictures? Because I left then.
Oh, he stayed for a good hour
Really?
and a half, yeah.
That's good.
And did you get a picture?
I didn't get. I was too busy. I got a group picture with the Campus Conservatives. I didn't get a solo picture. It's unfortunate because that's my second time meeting him, and I didn't get a picture the first time either.
Oh, when did you first meet him?
At the Manning Conference.
I thought he didn't
Right.
come to that.
No, he came.
Oh.
Did he speak at the Manning Conference too, or?
Well, he participated in a debate.
Nice. That's good.
True.
Any other recent topics discussed?
There is. I just want to mention, speaking of debates, one of the debates will be close to me in King Vaughan.
Oh, yeah.
I have a French in-class midterm on that day, so I can't go, and it's so annoying because it's
You should
free,
call them to postpone
and it's
it.
in the Jewish Community Center.
Oh, man.
No.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
So I'm like, low-key just
It's
about
okay.
that.
You saw him at
Jeez, yeah.
Ryerson.
Yeah. But like I want to see all the candidates, right? There's
Yeah.
another one coming up. The final one will be in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
There's like $20 to go, which I kind of want to go to just to kind of see all the candidates. But anyway,
it's always nice to get new information and stuff like that.
yeah. So our next news of the week will be the Dutch elections. I know Marshall and Adam, you guys were following that really well, and I'm sure Daniel was also on that.
The Dutch election?
The Dutch elections, yeah. So what happened?
A lot of people were worried. Some people were excited. Some people were worried. I'll talk for the worried folk. A lot of people were worried that as he was called, the right-wing populist, Gert Wilders.
Wilders.
Gert Wilder.
He's so
The right-wing party, a lot of people called him a right-wing populist. He lost the election. A lot of people feared that he would win. And yeah, it's, I guess, a win for the left, in a sense. And yeah.
The economic or the political system in Holland is interesting because I would call Geert Wilders right-wing in some aspects, but he's also very left-wing in other aspects, and a lot of Dutch politicians are like that. Like their current prime minister, the one who won. I mean, a lot of people would call him like a right-winger, but he's also very proportionally left-wing to a lot of them. Geert Wilders, I think his stance on the EU, I mean, most people know that I really don't like the EU. I liked that. I liked his approach to immigration. I did not like his economic policies. I found he was quite left-wing economically. He was also a protectionist, which I didn't like. But we're seeing a whole lot of that. I feel like, unfortunately, one day protectionism is going to be just inevitable in politicians. But I'm not overly upset about Geert Wilders. I mean, it's Holland. It's not here. It's not the States. I would have liked to see him win, but I'm also not. I don't hate the guy who did win, so it's all good.
I think it's pretty interesting looking at the Dutch election in terms of the results. I remember looking at it yesterday, like obviously because like the breaking news and stuff like that. Like when you look at the news, showing right here like the amount of like different like parties that actually get elected into the government. I think that's a lot more like idealistic, just so that's it's just for a more accurate and representative type of discourse in their government. And it's always interesting to see like when governments are forced to create coalitions in order to actually create any type of social change that they want.
It's like Israel in that sense.
It's necessary though. Yeah. Like Canada doesn't really do that as much anymore. The last coalition was like I think in 2003 or something like that, where it was like a conservative minority government or something like that.
No, I think they tried again in like
there was one between Conservatives and NDP. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, but
Conservatives and NDP, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did
the
not
conservatives. I don't think the Conservatives would ever do that.
No.
With the Liberals.
Yeah.
You sure it's not the Liberals?
No, Liberals and NDP and
right.
Green. Yeah. My bad. Yeah.
See, but that's the thing. Like Canada, like it's nice to see Canada do that, but we don't do that as accurate because we either have a majority or a minority, not necessarily a coalition all the time. Mm-hmm. So I want to see what's going to happen here, like in terms of all these different types of ideas flowing into that particular state.
Yeah, it's very different than Canada. Mm-hmm. So let's our final piece of news is which we'll do in about a minute and a half. It's Trump's tax returns. Want to talk about that? Marshall's getting excited.
Hilarious. As anyone could have told you, or as many people could have told you months ago, the tax returns came up and there were a whole lot of nothing. The big news is Trump's been paying 25% of his income, paying, what was it, like 32 million? I almost said billion, but 32 million in taxes. I mean... Yeah, that's all there is to it. Nothing fishy.
What I know people were criticizing is like, oh, like how come he's not paying more in taxes? Because like in terms of the percentage, right? Yeah. It's like like Trump's percentage is almost near the equivalent of like somebody in the middle class or like in the lower class. And like then it was like, oh, shouldn't somebody who's been making that much more money pay a significant more amount of taxes? And like,
well, then your beef's with the government policy. He's paying the minimum legally required amount.
Yeah, a lot of people were saying that, like...
people think that he's, like, doing some sort of, like, major tax evasion or something.
He's like paying the amount of taxes that someone would pay on a maximum 400K income. Mm-hmm. And apparently his business at a time was making 408K a day.
Jeez.
So everybody is criticizing him and saying that, he should be paying more taxes, and I agree to a certain extent. But how much tax do you want him to pay?
Yeah,
he's a businessman. There are laws and loopholes in the
he shouldn't be completely
in the legislation.
For being successful. That's what I think too.
Yeah, that too. And there are a lot of loopholes and parts in legislation that let him go and take his money elsewhere and donate to charity and little things like that evade him from taxes.
Yeah.
This is the system. Like, the world is still spinning. People are still dying in the Middle East and in Somalia. Like nothing has changed. We got his tax returns. God is great. It doesn't change anything.
People are acting as if like as soon as we get these tax returns, it's going to be some sort of weapon we can use to impeach Donald Trump.
So how did they? The question is, how did they come out?
Oh, they were in someone's mailbox. They showed up.
Is it some weak thing?
I'm not gonna lie. Like, this is a bit conspiratorial, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the Trump admin had leaked the tax returns itself.
Because they defended them pretty fast and pretty well.
Like they knew the information already.
That's like a victory for the Trump admin, I'd say.
Yeah, they handled it pretty well. I'd agree with that.
Props to the Trump administration. That's the first time you're going to hear me say that. And hopefully the last.
Damn.
Jeez, that's new. What's happening?
See, everybody just talks so like I'm getting sick and tired of talking about Trump. But
I thought you meant talking. It's just you want to get off the show?
No. But this guy, he's not the Antichrist. He's not Hitler.
Not.
So
nor is he Hitler.
I don't like him, but we'll give him a try.
And his tax returns won't change anything, whether I like him or not.
Exactly.
Nachas.
Anyway, so
if another country can elect somebody like Duarte, who justifies and advocates the killing of so many young people.
Yeah, he has an 85% popularity.
Yeah,
exactly.
So let's.
Yeah.
It's not the worst thing in the world.
Let's get to our main story now.
Yes, sir.
Today we talk Russia.
Rushka.
And as the Russian on the show, Dobry день, which is hello in Russian. So we're going to discuss everything from hacking to coercion to bromances and what's next. Since it was 2 a.m. at the time I wrote this, I don't have much of an intro, but I tried.
We forgive you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it at this rate. Before we get to the questions, I want to mention to everyone once again that we are live on spiritlive.ca and Facebook Live, so you can tune in to us there and message us directly to our Facebook page to have your thoughts read live on air. Wherever you are, whatever you think, we want to hear it. So without further ado, let's get right to the questions. Question 1. What are your initial thoughts on Russia as a country? You can talk about, Russia as a place excluding government. You can talk about government.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Russia?
You guys boys want to take this? Or?
Yeah, I mean...
Remember what you say, I will get the KGB on you.
So, I mean,
back from the dead.
there are certainly some issues with Russia. Overall, what can be said about them is that they're a very powerful state. They have some policies in place that I'm not a huge fan of. I'd say on a geopolitical level with their involvement, their ties to Iran, I'm not a huge fan of. What they're doing in Syria, I actually have a bit of cognitive dissonance about because I think that although Bashar, it's Bashar.
Yeah,
right?
Bashar.
Bashar is terrible. The rebels might just be significantly worse.
It's a losing battle.
It's just bad either way you go about it. But one thing I think is that Russia should be an ally. That's one thing I think is so important. Russia needs to be an ally, or at least amiable. You need to not be enemies of Russia. That's just a terrible decision. The Cold War was a mess. The Cold War, of course, so many scientific feats came from it, but you can say that about any war. But you know what? I just think that avoiding another Cold War at all, in any way necessary, is so important.
Yeah, they say the Cold War never ended.
Yeah, true.
So
they just replaced the USSR with Russia.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
My opinion of Russia is a little bit different. I'm not to say I'm a huge Russia fan. I don't have a poster of Putin in my room, but
he does. Can confirm. He does.
My
Gorbachev
dad.
and Stalin and stuff.
my dad grew up, and at the time in Israel, the Communist Party of Russia was giving bursaries and scholarships to Israeli Arabs.
Really?
If they were to join the Communist Party. So my dad got through school with a lot of bursaries from the Communist Party. So my dad grew up with a very fond image of Russia, and then therefore he passed along a lot of his fondness of Russia towards me. So I have a very strong positive bias towards Russia from the get-go. But I just finished writing my final essay for a course on Russian propaganda, and the way that Russia has sort of chiseled and built themselves to be this monumental state is very, very fascinating. And I think that Russia is very good at being spiteful and being petty. Russia is a very petty state. And I say that with
everything on the Americans.
Yeah, I say that with as much professionalism as I can, because they just sit at the Security Council and they veto everything that the U.S. wants to pass. When Prime Minister Stephen Harper yelled at them to get out of Ukraine, they just sat there and they were like, "How can we get out of somewhere we are not?" So I laugh at Russian foreign policy, and it's very funny for me. And as a state, they are slightly oppressive in certain ways towards their minority populations, towards the gay community. I think they meddled a lot in the Olympics. They would heat the ice of other team members, or allegedly. And I don't know if I have some sort of cognitive dissonance as well, or if I'm just ignorant, or if I just don't care enough. But I don't really see the big deal with a friendship or a relationship between Russia and the United States. But we'll get
sorry, I'm gonna have a question about that. Yeah,
in later in the show. But I've always maintained a very positive image of Russia and their history as a history major. Their history and their preservation of history and how they did it is very commendable.
Yeah.
So
I was actually going to talk about just history and stuff, like in terms of like right now, like in our society, like everything that's going on in the world in terms of that, and we can attack Russia, I guess, for their human rights violations and stuff like that. But that's like if we criticize one country,
you can do that in
we
Canada.
have to criticize
you can do
every
that in the
single other country.
States.
Yeah. I know. So I think people might have like a perceived perception that like Russia's like this like the enemy or something like that. Russia's not the enemy whatsoever. I think we if an example we were talking about with the Cold War and with history, we cannot repeat the same thing that we did before. If we have Russia as an enemy or something like that, it's gonna happen another Cold War. And what happens if we have World War III and stuff like that? It's gonna be ridiculous. Although Russia has a very different set of ideas in comparison to the Western society, and if you want to put put them together or not, there's nothing wrong with people that have different opinions and different ideas to.
It's what the show's about.
Together. Yeah. An example, what's everything that's going on in the Middle East right now in Syria. The U.S. and NATO has their own typical solution on how to handle this problem. Russia has their own different way. For Russia, I believe they're arming the Kurds. If I'm not right, is that what it is?
No, Russia's arming the rebels.
No. Oh
no, Assad's government.
Yeah, Russia's
they're supporting Assad's government.
Okay.
The states are supporting the rebels and the Kurds.
Hold on. When I was talking before, I got mixed up with who's Bashar?
Bashar is the government. He's the president of Syria.
Who's Assad?
But Bashar al-Assad is his full name.
Okay, yeah. I got it. So I thought Bashar was his last.
Who's arming the Kurds then? Because I know that's another.
The U.S. coalition. It's more Germany and Jordan and that side.
So my point being is whatever they're doing, both of their goals is to destroy and stop ISIS.
No. Well, no.
In the same way?
No.
They're trying to stabilize the country.
One thing I really criticize about the U.S. is that they are essentially arming ISIS. And, the rebels against the Syrian government have been shown to be made up of some people who are associated with ISIS. So in arming the rebels,
U.S. and the U.S. coalition is arming those rebels.
And that's a separate thing from the Kurds. There are Kurds involved, but that's a separate thing from arming the Kurds. When people talk about arming the Kurds, that's not what they're talking about.
But it's its own separate ethnographic society, and we need to people are just doing their own thing, but
Every
It's so
party in this
complicated.
conflict has different interests.
Yeah.
Turkey wants geopolitical interests.
Mm-hmm.
Russia has interests to be spiteful of the U.S. and to support the Syrian regime, the
Yeah.
Assad regime.
Right.
The rebels want to take control of Syria and take it back from the
Mhm.
Assad regime.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've named
I
all
think
the
an important
parties. And then
idea is
ISIS wants to establish their caliphate.
An important idea is just to like maybe like put some of their like differences aside and just to progress for a more common goal of like
Yeah.
Yeah, good
It's
luck.
never
Good
gonna
luck
happen
with that one.
Between the U.S. and Russia, absolutely. I think that's feasible. I think that there needs to be some
we need to get rid of this perception
kind
that
of a
Russia's, like,
cultural
terrible
reset,
country.
kind of
Yeah.
a cultural reset around like the connotations that surround Russia. I don't think arming Assad or helping Assad is necessarily the bad thing to do. I think that it is a bad thing to do, but in proportion to arming the rebels, no.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you arm the rebels and the rebels overthrow Assad, I think you're going to end up with a much worse situation.
Yeah, we already know
They are, and this is a controversial statement. Syria is not ready for democracy.
Hot take.
You heard it here
First
first.
hot take of the second season right here.
What I know about Assad when Syria was stable, and I know we're going off on a tangent here,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
what I know about Assad when Assad was stable is that Assad comes from the Alawite faction of Islam.
Mm-hmm.
And the Alawite faction is a very small minority and very much prosecuted across the Middle East. So he kept a lot of the minority populations of Syria very safe.
Mm-hmm.
And my Christian family in Syria, as long as Syria was stable, was very safe and had no problems.
Right.
Now, not exactly the same story.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm biased in terms of being, I don't want to call myself pro-Assad, but in terms of safety towards minorities, it was better with Assad than without.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised to hear you saying all this, Adam, but I'm pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
I think for the sake of the argument, we all know that like if the UN were able to step in there, they would probably be even worse. If anything, like
Yeah,
wouldn't
if
do
they
anything.
established a UN, yeah.
Some sort of like armed military peace enforcement thing. Like, it's not gonna happen.
So back to Russia itself. Now that we know that Adam's pro-Assad and pro-Russia,
I don't want to call myself that.
I'm just kidding.
now we're just memeing.
You'll find out later on Facebook.
Uh-oh.
Anyway, so you guys were mentioning like the relationship between Russia and the U.S. So one of the questions I had is, do you believe that having a strong relationship with Russia is good for the U.S.?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think, and I've talked about this before, I've used the famous Ronald Reagan campaign ad from '84.
Make America great again.
No, it's, you know what, maybe there is a bear, maybe there isn't. Isn't it better to be stronger than the bear? I say today, isn't it better to be friends with the bear? Because maybe there is a bear. You know how people use a bear to symbolize Russia, yeah. You know, and maybe there isn't a bear. Maybe Russia's not a threat. I think in either case, it's better to be friends with the bear. Sure, be stronger than the bear, but don't peacock for the bear. Don't constantly, kind of
Agitate it.
show your dominance towards the bear, because that's how you end up mauled.
That'd be a better picture for Putin, like riding on top of a bear.
Yeah.
Shirtless.
You can find some pictures of that on the internet. And I think just if you're gonna be a global state, a state that is has relations with states all over the world, you're gonna be in relationships with some awful states like Saudi Arabia or like, I don't know, Iran. What makes
Brunei,
Russia,
Kuwait, all those other countries too.
Venezuela? Yeah. What makes Russia so much
Pinochet's
worse?
Chile.
Yeah. What makes Russia? What disqualifies Russia from a relationship when the U.S. has relationships with Saudi Arabia and Venezuela? I prefer Russia to those countries.
Yeah, we would criticize if Russia had extremely deep ties with all those countries.
Yeah.
But we don't blink an eye for the U.S. doing the exact same thing.
I don't know what it is with certain countries, especially I find the U.S., Russia, and Israel. They can do such, they can. Every country does some messed up things. They can do things that are significantly more innocuous than things that other countries do, and get blasted for it 10 times more than any other country does.
Yeah.
And I think it's unfair, and I think that Russia has done some terrible things. I think that the scale of their terrible things is nothing compared to so many countries the U.S. does have a good relationship with.
I just want to see Adam. That's all.
Hey buddy. A lot of criticism of people, a lot of criticism of countries comes from like if you're not involved in politics, the next best thing to get informed on foreign policy and how one country treats another is through like media, movies, TV,
History as well, maybe.
the little bulletins at the bottom of CP24 when you're in the subway or little things like that. And a lot of my criticisms towards the media is how they portray Arabs. It's always the terrorists. They're always playing the terrorists. They're always wearing some sort of turban, even though the majority of Arabs don't wear turban. It's just the Taliban in Afghanistan. They're always the evil guy. They're always the whatever. But Russia is portrayed in a very similar way. They always have the scar on one eye. They're always bald. They always have a very thick accent. Aging with wrinkles. It's always that one guy from Hannibal, the show. I don't know his name.
I would love to see what Russian TV does in terms of like its propaganda.
I can tell you.
Media
I
and
can
programming
tell you
towards like Americans. Like,
I can legitimately tell you.
What I'm saying is like the same way that we view Russians as what Adam described, like seeing what they describe Americans as like these fat, alcoholic, like incestuous like people or something like that. I don't know. Probably
Russia. So my mom has a Russian channel, like direct from Russia. You know, Channel 1 Russia. Okay. Первый канал, as it's called in Russian.
Very cool.
And she basically watches it. Like that's her favorite channel. You know, like she knows it's garbage.
Because Russian TV is garbage. From the research I've done. From the
welcome to Looney Lennon's TV show.
See, that's very close to some of the shit I see. But like she watches, like obviously there's some regular programs like The Bachelor Russia, where these three women hook you up with people and then like
Alexa,
grill
Valentina,
you.
Sasha, all three.
Yeah, and Putin and whatever. And so there's that. There's also like a talk show where everybody's yelling. It's like the Russian version of like Maury Povich.
I love that show.
Jerry Springer, right? And then there's the news.
Oh boy.
The Russian
That's
news,
what I want to know
which
about.
my dad has said has not changed style since he was a kid.
Really?
Yeah, it's the same format, and nobody's ever happy doing the news. Like you'll never see a Russian announcer like on CTV News or CTV, whatever. Hello and welcome to the news. Hello and welcome to Russia News tonight. They're miserable. They're as miserable as border security officers there.
Oh, those are. Oh, geez.
I went to Russia twice, first and last time. No more. And
Wait, where'd you go? Like,
St. Petersburg.
Okay.
My
Nice
mom
place.
was just there. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It looks beautiful, doesn't it?
It is. It's very nice there, but the people aren't, right?
Is everything in black and white in Russia?
No, it's in monochrome, which is all these different tones of green.
All these tones of gray because everybody's sad, but more than 50 shades. So yeah, it's just all the news is like very very sad, whatever, and they always talk about America like they don't like it, and they report it in a completely different way than American media, and you know for the most part they're pretty pro-Trump, I'd say. A lot of the media.
They like him because Trump is keeping an open mind with Russia.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And see, everybody criticized Trump for saying like, "Oh, what's wrong with being friends with Russia?"
Could Putin
be my best friend?
Could he be my best friend?
Like you know, Hillary wanted to go to war with Russia.
And it's funny.
It's what I heard. Like why? Why?
She never explicitly stated that, but it did seem like she was very anti.
A proxy war in Syria is what I saw with Hillary's statements.
It's funny though because when
fun fact, I saw her motorcade in Israel. But
oh wow,
oh cool.
Like from a hill.
She
and then
probably
was
just
going.
wanted some hummus, and that's it.
Just like getting my
When oh my god, now his name's evading me. Who ran against Obama in 2012?
Romney?
Romney, yes.
Romney.
So when Romney was
Did
talking
he do
about
something similar?
well, when he was talking about what a threat Russia was, and the Democrats and the supporters of the Democrats were all laughing at him. Like,
Yeah,
what?
Obama
Russia's
made
not a
fun of him.
threat.
The 1980s called. They want their geopolitical threat back.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
now you see, it's exactly flipped. And I think that Romney
When
was
it's
wrong.
convenient for them,
I think
yeah.
Romney was wrong on a lot of things, but I think Romney was wrong. I don't think. Well, you know
He
what?
just didn't
Maybe
seem
though.
like a good leader.
I wouldn't call Russia a threat. I'd call them a force to be reckoned with.
Modest bump in the road.
Well, there's someone you don't want to mess with, is what I'd say.
Yeah.
Not
yeah.
a threat. If you don't poke the bear,
They're
it
a
won't
bear.
maul you. Yeah.
They're a bear.
So in terms of threat,
And the U.S. is an attack helicopter just ready to pounce.
AC-130.
in terms
And,
in terms of threat, so we mentioned Stephen Harper, right? And him talking about Ukraine. So when Stephen Harper was still prime minister at a G8 or G20 meeting, he, while shaking hands with Putin, told him to get out of the Ukraine. Do you guys believe Harper? Who do you believe, Harper or Trump, is a tougher critic of Putin?
Oh, Harper. Absolutely.
Harper, yeah. I don't think Trump would say that directly to Putin.
Yeah.
No, you know what?
I don't think he would do that.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, I think Trump is a tough guy. I don't think Trump is as tough as Harper. I don't think Trump is as tough as Putin.
Yo, props to Harper for doing that.
Honestly,
I was very surprised when
Yeah.
my mom, told me that. I'm like, oh, okay, so Obama said that. I'm like, and then she's like, no, Harper. I'm like, Harper?
Yeah,
That's
well,
weird.
Ours?
Yeah.
it was great. I thought it was so great. And I do think that Trump needs to remain critical of Russia.
Yeah.
That's one thing that's so important that I honestly don't think he'll follow through with. Although you can be allies with them and remain critical. I mean, like, everybody's allies
And that's
with Turkey,
important
but
to
everybody's
do.
so critical of Turkey, as they should be.
Yeah.
Same needs to apply to Russia.
The problem with
Turkey.
Trump is I don't think Trump understand. What?
Sorry, Robert just commented. He said, Trump's got a limp dick when it comes to Russia. Rip Harper. Yeah, thanks, Rob. Anyway, continue, Adam.
Thanks,
Sorry, I
Rob.
didn't mean to cut you off.
The problem with Trump is that I don't think he understands. And I'm not calling Trump stupid, but I am calling Trump stupid. I don't think he understands that. I don't think Trump understands how many countries Russia is involved with. Like, it seems like Trump is very tough on Iran. Well, who is one of Iran's greatest allies? Russia. It seems like Trump wants to end the conflict in Syria. He seems like he wants to protect minority Christians if they're coming as refugees after the travel ban ends. Like, he seems like he wants to do a lot in these geopolitical areas. Who's Syria's greatest ally right now? Russia. So I think that if Trump wants to be tough on these other countries, they need to look at Russia in a critical lens, as Marshall said. So I think that Trump is going to need to get some lessons on geopolitics.
I think that one thing that Trump doesn't realize is that when he criticizes Russia, he's also criticizing a host of when he's criticizing Iran, he's also criticizing. There comes a certain need to criticize, like, Russia,
Azerbaijan, all these other smaller post-Soviet states.
I don't think it's because he's not aware of the connections. I think he's just not thinking about it as he's doing his criticizing.
Because it doesn't appear to him as an issue. It's like, oh yeah, okay.
I think just as he's talking, he probably doesn't think about it.
What I didn't understand was, do we have a question there about the election, or should I get into it now? Okay.
I can go straight into it. So Russia dominated the news for the past year, over influence the U.S. elections. So straight up for our listeners to hear, did Russia hack the U.S. elections?
No.
Yes.
Hold on, let me get a wait. Whoa. Okay, wait. Hold on.
Who said yes? Who said no?
Wait. Hold on.
I said no.
Hold on. Say that again.
Yes.
Okay, good. Now I got a shot of both of you. Okay.
Well, let me explain. Let me explain. So,
okay, there's a difference between hacking and influencing the election.
Exactly. I don't think Russia hacked.
So I'm saying hacking.
No, hacking. No. But the only reason I said yes is because when people talk about Russia influencing the election, people conflate hacking, influencing, like forcing the outcome of, and like they act like it's all the same thing. I absolutely think Russia influenced the election for sure. I think that you can't doubt that. A lot of people seem to think that means that they hacked into the polling stations and made everybody vote for Trump. That's ridiculous. That's insane. But yes, I do think that Russia influenced the election, as I think that they,
in the same way, you can make the same argument for Saudi Arabia.
Well, I think any major country, any major
has the
state
ability to sway
influences many foreign elections. They're not supposed to, but they do, and it's inevitable. No, I don't think Russia hacked the U.S. election. I'll put that on the record. Yes, Russia did influence the U.S. election.
Well, going off that, then I agree with Marshall, because that's what I was going to say. Because I don't think they,
Oh, damn it! I thought you guys were going to disagree.
They tapped into the Soros machine, and they hacked into the election and changed every Clinton vote to Trump. No, what I did think happened was that Russian media and Russian diplomats and whatnot started to curve towards Trump, because the establishment, and especially the Democrats, they hate Russia. So if they thought someone could be a little bit more friendlier to them, why not support them? Who cares about their other policies? So and then after the election, they blamed everything on Russia. They didn't take into account, the ignorance of Wisconsin and Michigan. They didn't take into account the electoral college system. They didn't take into account everything. It's like, oh, Russia hacked it. Clinton lost because Russia hacked it. And when you say a big word like hacked, you imagine some nerd sitting in his mom's basement with a
I'm in.
Yeah, exactly. With, green and black on his screen with a double big gulp from 7-Eleven just sitting there, and he's like, I'm in. Like, that's what you
Mom,
imagine.
I need more Doritos.
Yeah. Mom, close the door.
It's not a phase, Mom.
See, that's what I imagine when I think of a hacker. When you think of Russian, like a big news source that I talked about for my propaganda essay was RT News, which is Russia Today News. And Russia Today News is the equivalent of Breitbart.
Is it?
It pretty much.
Wait, say it again.
RT News.
Russia Today.
Russia
okay.
Today.
Okay, cool.
It's that one with the green logo.
Speaking of the news, I was just like scrolling through my Facebook, and I just saw somebody who shared like some video for like criticizing Trump, and I think praising Obama, but it was from Al Jazeera News. Do you guys think that they're a very credible source or
Hey,
not?
you want to watch it?
I wouldn't.
Credible?
I'd say, like, how can you say any news source is credible anymore?
No, but like,
I think they're very, very left wing.
Yeah.
So for someone with right wing beliefs, they are not a credible source. But for the young teenager, any AJ Plus video is their Bible in a sense.
yeah.
So I think that I think AJ.
I see so many people just looking at those videos and then just sharing them and think that it's absolute fact.
Yeah, well,
They
I
don't
think
understand
AJ Plus is. I would never trust AJ Plus because I'm not saying they'll tell
where do they
outright
even
lies,
begin?
but they have a huge spin. They
Wow,
spin
2
things
years
so
ago.
much that
Yeah.
they spin things so much that things just turn the other way completely. Al Jazeera, the actual like main website or
I
publication,
think they're very
is-
informative, to be honest.
Yeah, they're better. They're better. I would never personally read them, but I'm not saying never. Like I would,
Yeah.
but I
No.
don't like
but
them.
they're not like super like pushing for like one political platform then. Or, Okay, so then back during the Obama administration, were they not criticizing him
Al
at all?
Jazeera criticizes everybody,
Okay, it's
good
but
then.
they lean towards criticizing the right more so the left.
Okay.
And they're also based out of Qatar, and
As
have a
long
very
as they're-
vested
Which is very
interest in-
funny because
Is there like a lack of free speech there sometimes?
there's a grave lack of
There's
free
no free
speech,
speech.
and they criticize everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how can Qatar support a media source like this?
Yeah. Because it's
Well,
privately
they don't
funded,
support
though.
Qatar, or they don't criticize Qatar,
Yeah.
or
That's a
do
good
they?
point.
I haven't seen them.
Well,
Supreme
I know
Master
that they
Leader.
wrote a lot of articles about the foreign workers that built the FIFA stadium and
Oh,
how
really?
they were treated.
That's actually the worst thing on the planet. I'm actually so disappointed for that.
Yeah.
Like, think about it right now.
Just
that
the-
World Cup, it's
yeah.
going to be in the winter.
In the winter.
Nobody wants, like, my brother fully says, like, I'm not watching that World Cup. That doesn't matter. It's ridiculous. The amount of people dying for those stadiums.
They're not
and
allowed
stuff like that.
alcohol, and you know how beer is important. Like
Yeah.
to the
Why the hell would it just blows my mind?
And for money, it's
Yeah.
the dumbest thing ever. It ruined the sport. It's
Yeah,
ruining the sport.
I know.
I'm still.
We
pissed
do
off about that.
have some comments about Russia and hacking. So Robert again, he said Russian computers run on vodka and nationalism, and also speaking of like media propaganda and all that, Kevin O'Leary's daughter is actually the social media coordinator for the Huffington Post,
really.
and she did not vote conservative. And she straight up told him, like, I didn't vote conservative, and if I don't like you as a candidate, I will purposely run against you. I will help people run against you. And he's like, uh-oh. So he started changing. And then we also have Austin Blazes.
Hey, Austin.
Okay.
Hey, Austin.
So he says no one does their research anymore. It's just straight sharing after seeing a cool fact. So you're right.
Yeah.
You're right
There you
about
go.
that.
pretty much what it
100%.
is.
That's exactly what it is.
And
I
that's
appreciate that, man.
that to me is what Trump keeps calling fake news.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That to me is fake news. Criticizing Trump is not fake news, but watching
It's shooting. It's
Yeah.
when you throw fake facts at him that's fake.
Or it's not
fake
even.
news.
It's
Not
just
even
spin,
fake facts.
Or it's a mission of facts. It's more. I'd say it's more so based on omission of important things, taking
Yeah.
things out of context.
like
you know.
there's this one AJ Plus video. There's the comedy analyst Francesca Fiorentini, and I like some of her stuff on Newsbroke, but she made this whole video.
More like news woke.
She made this whole video calling Trump a fascist. And I watched it. I gave her the benefit of the doubt, and I watched it. And I'm watching it, and all she keeps talking about is Trump's tweet quoting Mussolini, or that's a big part of her video. And I'm like, that doesn't make someone a fascist.
Yeah.
If Mussolini said, "I like eggs for breakfast," I would quote Mussolini
I'm a
in that
fascist
sense.
then, no. I'm a fascist.
Therefore fascist. Like I. So
Only true fascists like their eggs over easy.
I like the same soccer team as Mussolini. Yeah.
Yeah.
Better watch out, Lazio. Yeah.
They're therefore fascist.
Yeah.
But see, like, there's a lot of racism in Italian soccer too. It's crazy.
They make monkey noises at black soccer
I mean,
players.
even they
Like
were
Serbian
famous for
soccer.
doing the Roman salute for a long time.
See, I want to see this right now. Like, don't actually put it onto my like.
Oh, you don't want to show it? Oh, we're going to talk about that video a different
Hold on.
time.
You can do it now. I just want to hide the name of whoever posted this. Like, put
Show
that on my
them.
feed.
Show them.
No. It's
Show
fine.
them.
But here's the thing. So there's somebody that just shared this right now. Like, go down a little bit, actually. Just a little bit. Read that right there.
Are all white people racist? Yes, of course they are.
Yeah,
That's on
is-
Facebook right now.
Yeah.
Which is like...
Almost 15 million people are looking at that right now.
I know exactly what video it is. I can only see it
It's
because of
from
the
Mike.
reflection, but
It's from
Yeah. You know, Mike is terrible.
yeah.
I hate
oh
Mike
my God,
with
Mike
a
is
burning
awful.
passion.
Who's Mike?
No,
It's an organizer. Not Mike as a person.
Oh,
Mike's
MIC.
great.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
I don't know any Mike that I hate. Personally.
Yeah, no, I can't stand the organization, Mike. It's terrible. And yeah, are all white people racist? Of course they are. Of course. Why? How could they not be?
Yeah,
you know,
it's just-
Marshall, you're a racist. There, game over. It's over, dude.
Honestly, I think everyone's racist.
And apparently we're for
yeah.
and apparently we're for entitled white dudes, so we're all racist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, I hate that whole attitude of like, and this is something I'm seeing a lot recently. It's like if you aren't fighting against racism actively,
You are racist.
a
You're
racist.
or you're part of the problem with
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
And it's
Wait, I
just
see,
like
nobody-
bystander versus bullying type thing, but
Yeah.
it's a completely different situation.
For me, it's freedom of association. If you, let's say, do not like a certain race, like your business, you don't hang out with them. You do not aggress upon them. If you aggress upon them, you deserve the full extent, force of the law. But you do not need to associate with anybody who you do not wish to associate with. And I think that's fine. If tolerance, I think is a false virtue. I don't think anybody needs to be tolerant of anything. If you let's say you're a big old asshole and you're intolerant of black people and you don't want to hang out with them, terrible. You're a bad person, but you're right. I mean, it's your right. I don't want to say you are right.
Some people are just
it's your right.
I think we're
That's a very controversial statement.
it's
I mean,
It's a
it's terrible,
combination.
but
Yeah.
it's
like in terms of like racism right now, it's a combination of like being innately racist, like to a certain degree, just because they're different, just because someone looks different, and also of the product of your environment. I think that's what it is. How you were raised as a child and stuff, like when you with your parents, like raised, like taught you as a child and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like an example, like if like say some sort of like a white woman or something that's walking like in the streets like young right there at like 1 a.m. and stuff like that, and there's like some like Hispanic dude or something like that, or let's say I'm dressed like with like a wife beater on and I got tats everywhere with
Yeah.
a chain and my saggy pants and stuff like that, and like I look like intimidating right there, and I'm like walking behind her and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well,
Is it justified for her to get like
Of
scared?
course.
and
I
think
would
that's
get
something-
scared
Of
if
course,
you were
100%.
walking behind me.
People
Yes,
think
of course.
people think that like
Now, if I'm wearing this right now, which is just like, I don't know.
You
what
look,
the hell
you know,
it's
fine.
literally
You
a
look
sweater
like-
with, I think, yeah.
Dapper gentleman.
it's about people will say don't be prejudiced, but that's just innate human nature. You
Yeah,
see
I
somebody
agree.
who
Yeah,
looks
yeah.
like a thug, regardless of their race. I don't care if it's
You're automatically gonna have, like,
Anybody ever been to
whether-
McDonald's at 3 a.m?
Yeah.
It's a scary time.
And here's what's interesting about what people who look like thugs. People who look like thugs are usually unemployed and poor.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's a disproportionate amount of black people who are unemployed and poor. And so it ends up being conflated, the two, being
Yeah.
black and being a thug.
But it's not an accurate representation
it's
of
not
black
an
people.
innate thing,
There you go.
right? Because
Right?
the thing is, and that's exactly true. But it's not. It's not fair to label me a racist when I see like either a white person or a black person in thuggy clothing, both of them beside each other. I'm gonna be like, I don't like either of you.
Yeah, because you can tell a thug, from just the
Yeah,
way they
just the
look.
way that they
Sometimes,
dress.
sometimes even from their face for some reason. I don't know why. It's
For
like-
me, it's the teardrop tattoos. If I see
Yeah.
teardrop
Well,
tattoos,
okay.
I'm out of there like quick.
That's just a dead
times.
giveaway.
Adam, I have something to tell you.
Oh, it's
Just take
over.
off
It's
the
over.
foundation, just show off.
Yeah, just,
takes off his mask. Underneath his mask is just
Face
Elliot's
tattoo?
face
no
again,
one
but with a
cared
face
who I
tattoo.
was before I put on the mask.
Wears a full Elliot mask to conceal his teardrop tattoo.
You've seen that Kevin Spacey thing where he's holding like a mask to himself and then he takes it off and it's
Yeah.
him again. So we are running low on time. There's a fun discussion though. I'm gonna ask one last thing. Actually, two last things. Very quick answer to this question. Trump has praised Putin in many interviews. Is there or will there be a bromance between the two? If so, bigger or smaller than that of Trudeau and Obama?
I just want that friendship for the memes. So I can just see pics of like Trump and Putin going like
I
this
think the
and stuff.
dust needs to settle from the hacking allegations and the Session allegations.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Jeff Sessions was resigned from his post after being accused of meeting the Russian ambassador. Jeff Sessions was
Did we
Attorney
not
General.
discuss this like 2 weeks ago?
Yes, Attorney General.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we
mentioned
in
it
our
for a
5-minute
bit-
recap.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was when we were talking about Michael Flynn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeff Sessions. He
Different.
also resigned, no?
I don't
We
think
didn't
Jeff
talk about
Sessions
him.
resigned.
though. I don't
Michael
think
Flynn.
he resigned.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They were
Michael Flynn.
related.
Oops.
Okay.
Sorry.
He
All these-
flinned away.
I was about to say, like, is there something I don't know?
No. Sorry. I didn't mean to. Yeah. And there's another member under investigation for
Jeff
talking to
Sessions is
Russia.
under investigation.
Okay,
yeah.
there we go. So I wasn't completely off about
Yeah.
Jeff Sessions. I think the dust needs to settle from the last election and sort of, there's some beef right now because Obama expelled a lot of the diplomats and analysts back to Russia. And as I was talking about Russia being a petty state, Russia invited the American diplomats to a big New Year celebration. So I thought that was funny. I think the dust needs to settle. Maybe next year or in the third year of his term, I think there could be a nice bromance. If anybody would like a good laugh, go look at the pictures of Bush visiting Russia and look at the way that he dresses. It is a good time. If you want to laugh, it's a good time.
I'll have to check that out.
So-
So I think the dust needs to settle with all the controversy, but I think there is potential for a bromance. But I don't think it can be one like Obama's and Trudeau's because Obama was on his way out and Trudeau was on his way in. So there's this sort of double honeymoon stage that comes together that they don't really care about each other because I'm gonna be gone before you win the next election and you're gonna be here.
You miss me when I'm gone?
Pretty
I
much.
hate that song.
So-
Pitch Perfect. It's another hot take. I never watched it, and I never want to because
I like Pitch Perfect.
No, I
You
just hate
heard
the
it here
song.
first. Daniel hates
Anna
movies with
Kendrick's
white
pretty-
girls.
Anna Kendrick's very attractive.
Oh yeah.
So
I think there can be potential for a bromance, but nothing like Trudeau's and Obama's.
Yeah.
So last question because we have to go very quickly. What's next? What's coming up between these two superpowers?
Oh,
World War
that's
III?
too much for a short question, but you know what? I think Adam basically had it right. I think that it's going to be a lot of tension for the next little while until the dust settles in regards to
At
hacking
least like 6
allegations.
months, if not a year.
But ideally, there's a bit of a cultural reset in the way that Americans think about Russia, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So we do have like a little bit of time left. I did want to point out your shirt. I really like it.
Thank
What,
you.
the Run DMC one?
No, this
that's
one.
Marshall's.
I'm just kidding.
This one.
Yeah.
What does it say?
Too lit to politic.
Too lit to
You've worn
politic?
it before.
Yeah, I've worn it before, but I think it's the first time it's gone noticed.
it's-
This is a gift I got for Christmas from my friends Faizan and Chloe, so shout out to them. They sneakily asked my friend Matthew for my shirt size, and then they ordered it for me. And I thank them, even though I'm learning now that Norm Kelly is more problematic than I imagined.
Really?
Yeah,
What?
he
Norm
denies
Kelly?
climate change.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, no, he does.
Yeah, he
Really?
says there was an article published that he contributed to that he's like, I don't see all the facts of climate change, and he voted to cut TO Parks and Registry, Toronto Parks and Registry. He voted to close some of the public pools during the summer. So he's a little bit more problematic than I imagined, but I will still wear the sweater because I got it as a gift, and
I love
I like
Norm.
the sweater.
I love Norm. Oh, it's just so
He's a sixth dad.
disappointing.
Yeah, he is.
You know, I almost bought
hate
that
that
sweater, but my friend pointed out to me. She said, Marshall, you can't wear that sweater. You're never too lit to politic.
That's a good
And
point.
It is very true. I think the more lit I am, the more political I get.
The Popeyes incident can speak
And
for that.
So-
yes, and I mean, one thing I've noticed is that I just get so aggressively Zionist when I drink.
They deserve it. They need it. They want it.
So
What's up?
get the music ready to go out. That was our show for this week. Thank you to everyone that tuned in and that messaged us live. A brand new episode of the Raben Report will be coming to you next week, and I'm talking slow because I'm trying to stall. But so next week, same day, same time, same people, we will potentially have an episode on Toronto, on the government of Toronto now.
Oof.
Since
I
we
don't know if we
mentioned
can
Norm
talk
Kelly
about that for an hour.
from just straight up like 6 dad,
Just
yay
gonna
or nay?
shoot.
Yeah. So again, see you next week. Same day, same time, same people. Thanks to everybody that messaged us live and that tuned in. We got a bunch
Austin,
of great
I love
messages.
you.
Shout out to Robert.
So have a
comments.
great day, everyone.